as shared by the Shell President, Chidri, you heard that we are at a very big percentage of some of the accidents or fatalities that do happen on construction sites in the oil and gas that are really impacting a lot of cost onto the government, and there is need for us to ensure that we put into the safety precautions, intensify on the supervision, on the planning part. And then, of course, we shall also look at the current gaps that are within the different workplaces. That if not closed, definitely they will lead to these accidents, fatalities, incidents, mention it. Then we shall focus on the key roles or roles and responsibilities of the different personnel involved in lifting operations. Then we shall look at the basic lift planning, then what's involved in load estimation, slinging calculations. Then we shall look at organization of lifting operations. Then lastly, we shall look at the common accidents for mobile cranes and forklifts. Then lastly, as mentioned by Angela, we shall do the question answer session in the last 30 minutes of our training. Yeah, before we start, allow me share this safety moment. Hope the audio will work. Then can start. I don't know, Angela, if the volume is now okay.
Yes, it's loud.
Hey, how's it going? Is this the last of the load? Yep, got here as quick as I could. All right, we've been waiting on this. I need you to get up there, all right? Okay.
What? Yeah, I know. Look, I need that stuff tomorrow.
I'll get right on that.
Are you okay? I can't move the crane. Listen to me. Don't move. That whole area could be energized. What do you mean, don't move? You're not in any danger if you don't move. Look, I'll call the power company right now.
When a high voltage power line has been contacted, the ground around the point of contact can be energized for a great distance. If you can't move the machine out of contact and are in no danger, stay put until help arrives. If you are in immediate danger and have to move, keep your feet together and slowly shuffle at least 10 meters away. Your feet should move no farther than toe to heel, never leaving the ground. For more information on working around power lines, go to worksafebc.com or bchydro.com/besafe.
All right, that's our safety moment. Basically, it was to do with working close to power lines. Okay, so there is need for us to always take extra conscious whenever. I'm sure most of us have seen people doing installations along the road, and close to power lines. Maybe they are using cherry pickers, and then maybe they're fixing lights or something of the sort, and people don't pay attention to the proximity of the power line. Okay, so normally in lifting operations there is a specific clearance which is given to a single phase and a three-phase, okay, with a maximum of 15 meters and around 7 to 5 meters, around 5 to 7 meters for low voltage. Okay, so once that clearance is given, if you're working within that area, the risks of electrocution of the equipment, they are very minimal. But if this is not respected, then it means one can easily experience what we have seen in this safety moment. And yes, if this happens, still, as you saw in the video, you have to move heel to toe, to toe when you're doing movement, such that you move away from the area that has been energized. In an area where you cannot work without these power lines, it's usually advised to cut off the power supply around that area, such that you can still work even without the clearance for as long as the power lines are not energized. So that has been our safety moment. So let's go straight into it. So I'm sure some of us might be wondering what's mechanical lifting, or what does it mean, like lifting operations? Okay, so lifting operations is the use of mechanical devices to raise, lower, suspend, and transfer loads. Okay, these might include mobile cranes, forklifts, overhead cranes, mention it, tower cranes, a lot of mechanical devices. Okay, and I'm sure some of us, if not all of us, have come in contact with or have seen mobile cranes, forklifts, overhead cranes on the different sites that we work from, because lifting operations do span through quite a number of sectors. It's not only in the oil and gas industry, it spans through construction, the construction industry, spans through the manufacturing industry, for example, like beverage companies, Nile breweries, Uganda breweries, maybe looking at the Uganda Bati for Uganda, and maybe looking at factories like Coca-Cola, okay, which I believe cuts across in Uganda and even East Africa. Okay, so all these manufacturing industries, they use forklifts to transfer their products from from one location to another. If you look at the steel milling factories like roofings, realize they have quite a number of overhead cranes. We have the warehousing industry, which normally is more onto the logistics part. Okay, they use quite a number of forklifts. If you look at the logistics companies, for example, Bolloré, they have quite a number of reach stackers, which normally lift containers from the trucks and even load them. So all that is mechanical lifting, because you're using a mechanical device to raise, lower, suspend, and even transfer loads. And then if you look at the film industry or film and entertainment industry, they also have a lot of mechanical lifting when they're setting up their stages, when you know, they are doing quite a number of activities during uh, their setup. So just for demonstration purposes, because you can see they're installing a pipeline. Mainly this is to do with oil and gas, like for our sister company, ECOP. Then of course, the construction industry, where they use more of the tower cranes. So some of the types of lifting equipment, maybe for information, lifting equipment is categorized into two. We have lifting appliances and lifting accessories. So for the lifting appliances, these are the devices that actually do the real lifting of the loads. That is the crane, tower cranes, crawler cranes. We have the hoists, chain blocks, forklift telehandlers, mention it. Then for the accessories, these are the devices that help us connect the load to the lifting appliances. We have the shackles, eyebolts, the spreader beams, spreader bars, we have the chain slings, wire ropes. We have the winches, as you can see, some of them. The lever hoist, the spreader beams, the winches, forklifts, crane, and overhead cranes, which I believe most of us have seen in our different workplaces that we are working in. So what are some of the regulations, standards, or acts that do govern lifting operations? This is very important for us to note, especially to the supervisors who are overseeing lifting operations within their workplaces. Okay, it can be a safety supervisor, it can be a lifting supervisor, it can be a warehouse supervisor, shift supervisor. By the fact that you have lifting equipment within your workplace and you're the person in charge, so it's prudent for you to get to know which regulations do govern the lifting operations within your workplace. Some of these are global regulations. Some are applicable to specific countries because, as you well know, different countries have specific different standards. But for Uganda, basically, we focus on the British regulations and standards, but as well, under the law, we follow the OSHA Act of 2006, though recently it was amended with a few changes which were put in the Act. So some of the regulations, we have LoRa. LoRa is lifting equipment, lifting operations, lifting equipment regulations. We have PURE, which is provision and use of work equipment regulations. Then about the standards, we have BS 7121, which basically deals with code of practice for safe use of cranes. For part 2 to 3, basically deals with thorough inspection, maintenance, and use of mobile cranes. But the standard itself has a series of parts: part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, part 5, which trickles down to different requirements for different equipment that we use, for as long as it's crane related. Then we have a standard governing forklifts. We have a standard for inspection of wire ropes, and also it stipulates the specifications of wire ropes in terms of design, shackles, chain slings, textile webbing slings, or textile slings, incorporating both round and webbing, depending on the part. Then we have ASME. ASME is basically these American standards. We have the B30 series, which talk about quite a number of requirements for different equipment, as we have seen in the previous slide. Then we have the OSHA Acts. We have the one for 2006, as I said, for Uganda. In Tanzania, I think it is 2003. It is still the Occupational Safety and Healthy Act. Then in Kenya, I think it is, unless they made some amendments, it's of 2007. And DOSH, I think DOSH is Department of Safety Health Services under the Ministry of Labor. Then for Great Britain, they have HASWA, which is Health and Safety at Work Act of 1974, which was, I think, amended a few years back around 2018. So we shall go through the regulations under the lifting operations and lift equipment regulations, roller. And we just have a look at most of them and um, what is involved in each regulation. As I've said, these regulations are followed globally, that's within Great Britain and outside Great Britain. For some countries, as I've said, they have specific regulations for them. But apparently in Uganda, even my current workplace, we follow or align to the regulations governing we refer to roller. And most of the inspection companies as well do follow the guidelines of these regulations. So regulation 1, we shall look at is more of a citation and commencement. Regulation 2, interpretation. Regulation 3 is about application, where this is applied. Regulation 4, strength and stability. 5, lifting equipment for lifting personnel. Positioning and installation, marking of lifting equipment. So all these regulations or all these titles, it is a specific discipline for what is required when it comes to thorough examination and inspection of lifting equipment. When it comes to marking of lifting equipment, what is really involved? What is it supposed to be about? When it comes to positioning and installation of lifting equipment, how is supposed to position your crane, how is supposed to position your forklift, and any other equipment that you're working with. Then about how is your report supposed to be, how is supposed to report. So regulation 10 will talk about that. Then 11, keeping of information of records. Then so just for the detail, regulation 1, citation. So before LoRa came into place, there were a lot of regulations, okay? But these regulations or acts had a lot of gaps in them. As you can see, this was these regulations came into place on 5th December 1998. This is just of recent. So this shows you how young the industry is and why is it important for us to really pay attention to these regulations, because before there were quite a lot of accidents that were happening, a lot of incidents were happening. So they had to come up with these regulations of recent, I think should be around 25 or so years ago. So this regulates existing equipment, second-hand equipment, lift equipment, and new equipment. Regulations about interpretation just breaks down lifting equipment, as I said. Lifting appliances, these are work equipment for lowering, load suspending, including its attachment used for anchoring, fixing, and supporting it. Lifting accessories, work equipment for attaching loads to lifting machinery, lifting operations, concerned with lifting, lowering, and suspending of loads. Thorough examination. I'm sure some of us have heard about inspection saying that, okay, we need to do a thorough examination of this crane, okay? So thorough examinations are normally done by a competent person or a competent inspector. By competence, it means you're trained, you're qualified, you have the experience to do that particular activity. Though apparently people do more of qualified person, not competent person, because competence is built over time. So we have what you call an examination scheme. Is the suitable scheme drawn up by a competent person for such thorough examination of lifting equipment at such intervals, and many others. So normally, as a statutory requirement, we find that lifting accessories are inspected every after 6 months, and lifting equipment are inspected, lifting appliances are inspected after 12 months. But a company, for example, I'll use, for example, Three Ways or Group Totas or ECOP, for example, like CPP or DOCG, you know, they might come up with an examination scheme saying that for us, we shall be inspecting our equipment every after 3 months. Okay. Sometimes it has to be backed up with a reason. Okay. Maybe because of the frequency of how these equipment are being used. Okay. Or maybe because of how long they have stayed in service, that maybe it requires them to always be thoroughly examined, not as per the statutory requirement. Of course, the statutory requirement is the standard, okay? But you might, if you intend to go beyond it or below it, then there has to be a reason. So you come up with an examination scheme of how you will be doing inspections of your equipment. Then of course you share it with the inspection company, and then they always do follow that. Or they can as well come in and advise you as you're developing your examination scheme, because you might say, I'll be inspecting my chain blocks every after maybe 2 years, but then you're using them like frequently, day and night. Surely, as an inspector or as a competent person, I will advise you not to push it to 2 years, okay? But rather maybe reduce it to a year or even 6 months, depending on their usage and how long they have stayed in service. So Regulation 3 about application, as I said, this is applied in Great Britain and outside Great Britain. Regulation 4, strength and stability, deals with the strength of the equipment and how stable it is. For example, if the ground is not stable, definitely the crane will tip. So when you're carrying out lifting operations, it's important for you to follow this regulation, that your ground is firmly stable, such that it will not affect the strength of to not affect the integrity of your equipment. When you're loading, what you're lifting, aren't you overloading the equipment? Definitely, if you're overloading, it will affect the strength of of your equipment. Maybe the crane boom will will break, or the safety devices will stop working, or something of the sort. Regulation 5 covers lifting equipment for lifting personnel. These ones, we have the cherry pickers, we have the man baskets, okay, which are normally attached either on a crane or a forklift or any other lifting machine. Key point to note, all appliances that this basket is applied for, they have to be fully certified for man riding, and they are always inspected every after 6 months. That's as per the statutory requirement or regulatory requirement. Always ensure that personnel is fully inside the cabin or the basket, not to be exposed, and always has to put on a safety harness. Regulation 6, positioning and installation. Normally, like the safety moment we had, how you position your crane or your lifting equipment matters, okay? Have you assessed the proximity hazards? Is it safe for you to position your crane there? Okay, imagine, sorry, okay, imagine we have a crane here, we have a tower crane, and then how the crane is swinging, chances are high it will hit the tower crane, okay? So how are we positioning our equipment on site. So this regulation guides us on how to position lifting equipment on site. Okay, yeah. I think I will share a detailed code of practice as per Laura, maybe for the team to go through them in depth. Angela, you just remind me at the end of the presentation. Then Regulation 7 talks about marking of lifting equipment. Okay, so all lifting equipment, that is accessories and appliances, have to be fully marked. SWL or WLL, or the self-working load, has to be clearly marked. You should be in position of understanding the manufacturer, the lifting angles where you're supposed to lift. It has to have the CE marking, which is more of a conformity. Then it's supposed to maybe show the angle. So all these markings are important for the user, okay? Before you actually dive into using this equipment, look at the markings. Sometimes they guide us on how to sling, on the capacity of the accessory or the crane that you're going to use for your operations. Regulation 9 talks about organization of lifting operations. So all lifting operations have to be properly planned by a competent person, appropriately supervised, and carried out in a safe manner. So lifting operation basically has 3 phases. It has the planning part, it has the supervisory part, which is more of the execution, okay, and then lastly, the actual execution itself. So when you're planning, for example, you have a load of 10 ton, okay, and then you want to lift it from a given location to from a given place to another, but then you brought a 5-ton crane to lift it. Definitely you're going to be overloading this equipment. So that's why the lift has to be properly planned by a competent person. In this case, it can be an appointed person for lifting operations. It can be a lifting supervisor, depending on the complexity of the lifting operation. And then the execution part, it has to be done as per that plan, no deviations, because we believe it has been properly planned and it has to be done that way. So when you're coming up with a lifting operation, definitely it can be simple, it can be complicated, it can be complex, it can be routine. It can require a GRA or risk assessment. It can require further engineering depending on the complexity, but this normally is defined by the competent person as they are drafting the lifting plan. Regulation 9 talks about thorough examination of lifting equipment, okay, every 6 months for loose lifting equipment, and 12 months for lifting machines. Though, if you look at the OSHA Act of Uganda, it gives up to around 14 months. Okay. I believe it should be the same with the other acts from Kenya or Tanzania, but at least I'm well comfortable with the one for Uganda. The act says not more than 14 months. But of course, since we are following the LORA regulations, most of the third-party companies normally do 12 months and 6 months. But of course, the government bodies normally give you up to around 14 months. Then, of course, we have reports and defects. So normally, when you've done an examination, a thorough examination, you have to produce a report. You notify your client about your findings. There are quite a few bodies that give license for third-party companies to do thorough examinations. One that's widely known is LIA. Okay, So in the report, you highlight all what you found out on the equipment. That's what is okay, then the defects. And as a minimum, your report has to have all this information in there. Okay. Your qualifications as an inspector, description of what you've inspected, the self-working load. So even us as supervisors, when they bring for you a report, look out for all this information, whether it has been given out or it has been stated on the report that they are sharing with you. Okay. If there is any information that is missing, that means the report isn't complete. Okay. It doesn't meet the international regulations or standards. Then keeping of records here, key point to note is in case of a thorough examination certificate, keep this until ceases to use the equipment or at least 2 years after the report has been made. You realize every after like 12 months, we have to inspect this equipment. But do we keep these records or we just throw them out once they have expired? It is always important for us to at least keep them for a minimum of 2 years, such that when an inspector comes back the following, after the next 12 months, they have a reference on how the machine has been. And as well, there's need for us to keep a record of their maintenance. Still, it helps the inspectors when they're doing inspection, and then even the supervisors to know the history of the equipment. With my experience, I've seen quite a number of equipment failures, but then sometimes it is attributed to people not paying attention to the mechanical, the maintenance records or the maintenance logs. You find that you're fixing the same thing every after 2 months, but then you don't realize. Okay, but if you have a proper record, it will help you to understand, okay, if we had installed a given shaft with given specifications, so it means maybe you need to change the specification, maybe you're not putting the right specifications. Okay, but if you don't have any reference of what you replaced, then it means tomorrow you're going to still replace the same. Okay, so that's why it's important for us to keep these records. Then about the OSHA Act of Uganda, we have a section which talks about lifting operation. That is from section 71 up to section 75. One important thing to note, section 73 talks about training and certification of personnel operating machinery or machines. This is subject to fines and imprisonment if not followed. So we need to take extra conscious on this. This mainly applies in manufacturing industries, because in the manufacturing industries, with my experience, I've seen most of the guys are not well trained, or if they are trained, they are not certified. And you find that they don't even care, as long as one has been trained on job, how to operate an overhead crane, so they will operate it forever without without being certified. This poses a risk of the person in case is to be reported, and you can actually be imprisoned or even give fines. So we need to be careful on this point. Then about the non-liability of the inspector. So for section 74, it gives power, I don't know if it's powers, to an inspector, in the sense of if anything happens during the course of him doing an inspection, he is not reliable. So what does this mean? If you're calling on a government inspector, for example, you specify on the needs of the inspection that he's supposed to do. If you don't want him to do a pressure test, a proof load test on your machine, then you tell him, okay? Because if he does a test that you have not highlighted to him definitely, and the machine fails, he will not be reliable, okay? Because he's protected under the law. And then about a person below 18 years of age shall not be employed to operate lifting machine or even participate as a banksman or what? As a slinger. Yeah, I think all those globally, someone who is below 18 years is considered a young person. So in lifting operations, only people that are above 18 are supposed to operate or even assigned other roles. Then we have the provision and use of work equipment regulation. It's more or less the same, though this one is wide, capturing all work equipment. So I'll just go talk about a few of them. I'll just talk about Regulation 9, which is more of training. Employers shall ensure that all personnel or people using work equipment have received adequate training. Okay, so it means it is a requirement for your employer to train you on a specific role that he wants you to play when it comes to lifting operations. If he wants you to be a lifting supervisor, then he has to train you, and then once you pass the training, you're certified, then you can proceed to do that particular role. Not to come in as a banksman, for example, and then after like a year, they tell you, okay, now you're supervisor. Yes, you might be supervisor, but you have not received adequate training for that particular role that they are assigning you. So it's the responsibility of the employer to ensure that he has fully trained you on that role that he's assigning you. All right. Can talk about inspection and safe use of equipment. We shall start with the soft slings or the soft textile slings. Inspection standard BSCN 1492, part 1 and part 2. So basically, these have different color codings, and each color coding represents a specific tonnage. About its inspection, normally we look out for damaged eyes, okay, of the sling. Then, of course, the loose stitchings. The markings should be legible, okay. During normally we find that slings that have stayed in service for some time, you can no longer see the markings. So if you can't see the markings, that means it is not safe for you to use because it doesn't meet the statutory requirement. Cuts, heat attack, chemical attack. Once you see all these, definitely you have to remove them from service. Any form of burns, cuts, welded or weld spatters, it's not safe for use. Then about their usage, when you're connecting slings, especially soft slings, normally connect them with a shackle, not tying a knot or passing them directly onto an eye bolt. Okay, it's always necessary to join them with the forklift, with the shackle, and then always protect them from sharp edges. Avoid hitting them with any material. So normally, the choke of the sling, if you've decided to do a choke hitch, has to come naturally as tension is being put in the sling. Okay, all these are subject of, like, they can easily damage the sling. Avoid dragging or pulling the sling out. Normally the load has to rest on packing such that it's easier for you to remove your sling. Okay, do not pull the sling. Always ensure that your slings are properly stored either on a rack or a designated rigging loft. About shackles, yes. Inspection and certification, basically we follow BSCN 13889. Okay. we have the bow shackles, we have the 2 and 4 piece. Okay, by 2 piece we mean the body and the pin. The 4 piece we mean the body, the pin, the nut, and the split pin. So these are the bow shackles. Then below are the D shackles. The D shackles mainly are used for vertical lifts, while the bow shackles can be used for multiple slinging. Okay, just like here, you have a point here and a point here because they have 3 bearing points in the bow. Then you have the wide body shackles. Then you have the sling savers or web sling shackles. About the inspection, normally we look out for any form of wear around this area. We look out for any form of deformation on the sling. Some examples like can be these. You can see that this sling is deformed. So meaning we can no longer use this kind of a sling because its integrity has been compromised. Okay. Then you look out for the straightness or straightness of the pin. It has to be straight. You look out for the opening of the shackle. Okay, if there is any opening, definitely we're not supposed to use it. Then for the split pins, normally these ones people tend to throw them. Okay, but it has to be there because it prevents the nut from coming out. Okay. Then for good practice, normally we encourage to also check out for the color coding of the shackle because color coding just shows the status of inspection. Those that are excessively corroded, those with incorrect pins, okay. There's somewhere I went and I found when they had improvised, they got some tire pins and bolts and then they used them in a shackle because someone lost the pin. It is not acceptable, okay? Because when they are doing manufacturing of these shackles, they manufacture it with the pin itself because the pin has to be, it undergoes different heat treatment methods, okay, to bear a specific self-working load that the shackle has been designed to lift. So we need always to be extra conscious on that. About their usage, this is okay in terms of alignment. Always it has to be in a straight pull. This is not acceptable. This normally brings about shackle openings. The same with this, it brings about opening and this. So normally to avoid this, we encourage use of spacers, okay, just to avoid the shackle from playing during lifting operation because you understand sometimes our lifts are dynamic. Then about the self-working load, so if you happen to lift from this section here, the capacity of the shackle reduced by 50%, then around this section 30%, then here around 5%, within this side. So we need to take note of that. Then never pass a sling through a shackle. Okay, this is not acceptable, especially with the screw pin shackles because you can easily unwind or open the pin from the shackle, and before you know it, your load will fall down, and then you cause damage to the load or even injure personnel. Then when we are connecting shackles to the what? To the eye bolts or to the pad eyes, normally it has to be in like diagonal for you not to bend the shackle or the pad eye. Then about wire ropes, inspection, normally we look out for any broken wires, any form of kinks, bad caging, corrosion. So if you happen to see any of these, we simply remove them from service. Okay. Then about their safe use, normally, I'll just talk about this, the sling angle tension. The more the angle, the included angle increases, the tension in the wire increases. As you can see, the vertical position, you are lifting a 10-ton load with the center of gravity in the middle. So each sling will lift like around 5 ton. So meaning the weight is shared by the two slings, and this is the maximum tension in the sling. But as we bend the slings to an angle, the tension keeps on increasing. 120, you realize the tension in each sling is around 10 ton, which is not recommended. The maximum recommended angle between the two slings should be around 90 degrees. About the chains, yes, still you look out for any form of wear, bent links, hinges, the stretchings, the gauges, okay, any form of welds, splatters or broken links. Sorry, is important for the slingers or the inspectors doing third-party inspection. About safe use for chain slings, normally this is not acceptable. Do not drag them. Do not try to repair them. You may find there's somewhere I went when some of the links had broken, and it was a steel milling company. So what they did, they welded. Okay, that is not acceptable because it will affect the integrity of the chain. Okay, its physical properties will be tampered with. Okay, then do not force a hook over a link. So all these totally not acceptable. Probably we shall share for you to have a look. About risks in lifting operations. So basically there are 4 risks. You have the risk of the load that you're lifting, the lifting equipment itself, the people, okay? And then you have the working environment. By the load you're lifting, it means the load can fall and hit someone. So it is a risk. By lifting equipment, it means if the lifting equipment is not well inspected, maybe it has defects or whatever, it means it is a risk to the operator, to the people involved in the lifting operation. Okay? Then to the people, normally you find you're lifting within a busy area, people are crossing and all that. So that's why you normally advise to barricade off the area to limit access of personnel. Then of course, workplace environment, as I said, maybe you can look at the ground condition. Is the ground okay? If it's the weather, is it raining? Is it, So those are some of the risks and some of the safety precautions. Definitely, we have to carry out a thorough lift plan and risk assessment. You have to always check the competence of the personnel involved in lifting operations. Ensure that all of them are trained, certified, and authorized to carry out those lifting operations. Always inspect your equipment, carry out a proper load assessment. Ground conditions should be verified before the lift to ensure that the ground bearing pressure will be sufficient. The ground bearing capacity will be sufficient compared to the ground bearing pressure of the machine that you're going to use. Weather condition, is it windy? Is it heavy? Is there clear visibility? Is there sufficient light, especially at night? It should do with the clear communication when you're using either hand signals or radio calls. If it's a radio call, are you using the same channel? Are you using different channels? Are you giving the appropriate hand signal to the operator? Then exclusion zones, have you barricaded off your area? It's very important. About slinging, normally you have to ensure that you've done a proper slinging technique. Then use of taglines and push-pull poles. Normally, for example, in our project, we don't encourage touching on the load, so we have a hands-free policy where we use push-pull poles and taglines. Still, just to protect the personnel in case of any load misbehavior. Then the route of travel has to be clear. So you have to properly land the load. Post-use inspection to ensure that the equipment wasn't damaged during your operation, and if it was, you properly report to your supervisor. About the roles and responsibilities of lifting personnel, we have an appointed person for lifting operations. This can be a CPLO. CPLO is a competent person for lifting operations. This can be a lifting TA or technical authority. It can be a lifting manager, regardless. So this person is responsible for carrying out a detailed risk assessment for the lifts that are going to be carried out on his site. Okay, a detailed lift planning to ensure that all the safe systems of work are in place. He has to carry out crane selection or accessories or equipment selection. He has to instruct and supervise lifts, especially the critical lifts. For the non-critical lifts, he can delegate to the lifting supervisor. Then has to consult from experts, has to develop lifting procedures, then of course stop operation in case they cause any safety risks, and then he has to also brief his team about the lifting operations. For the lifting supervisors, normally they are hands-on on the daily execution of the work to supervise and see that the lift goes on as per plan, confirm the ground is okay, ensure that there is a proper and clear communication throughout the entire lifting operation, monitor the weather condition, site condition, and surrounding hazards to ensure that they don't affect your lifting operations. Then just to ensure that personnel comply with company policy, industry standards, and industry lifting best practices. Conduct toolbox with the team. Ensure that the team is using, they are trained and well certified to carry out that lifting operation. Then for the operator, basically is to operate the crane as per manufacturer, operating principles, follow the banksman instructions, carry out pre-use inspections, respond to emergencies, verify the load, the weight of the load if it falls within the safe working load. The banksman, his main duty is to direct the operator, either using hand signals or radio signals. Okay. Some of the crane signals we have, as you can see, if you're stopping operation, you raise your hand up. Some people clench the fist or the hand, still okay. If it's an emergency, you have to raise both your hands up. If you're hoisting up, you raise your hand and then you point out your index finger and then you keep rotating it around like the rings of your hand. This is to tell the crane operator to raise or hoist up the load, then lowering both hands, swinging them down. Some people put one of their fingers up and then they slowly put another hand for them to instruct the operator to change. Then for the swinging the load, depending on where you want the load to go, either to the right of the operator or to the left of the operator. Then if it's a main or auxiliary hook block, If it's the main, then you have to touch on your head, then you give a specific signal. Yeah. Then if it is the small hook, you have to knock on your elbow, then you give an instruction on what to do. If it is booming up and down, still you raise your thumb in this direction, and then you tell as you keep raising your hand up and down for the operator to boom up and booming down, you point it down and tell him to boom down. I had a video here, but I'm seeing time is running very fast. I think I won't play it, but it's just still about the same thing of signals. Then for the slinger, main duty is to sling the load, attaching accessories on the load and to the lifting appliance. Then about lift planning, mainly key documents involved here is the lifting plan or method statement, then a detailed risk assessment. Key considerations when you are carrying out, when you are planning for the lift. One is lifting equipment selection. Okay, looking at the load that you're going to lift, you have to select which equipment is sufficient for that particular load. If you have a 1-ton load to lift at a radius of 5 meters, there's no need of you bringing a 200-ton crane to lift it. Definitely you can bring a less capacity crane, maybe a 5-ton or, to lift that particular load. Okay. Then another consideration, load weights and dimensions, then ground and environmental conditions, nature of the lift to be performed. Okay. Are you just transferring the load? Are you raising it, lowering it, suspending it? Okay. So this helps you to properly plan for your lift. Then, of course, you have to come up with a lifting plan. Lifting plan is just a structured document that highlights how the lifting activity will be carried out safely, effectively, and in compliance with the regulation. Some of the information you'll find in the lifting plan is the description of the lift, the type of lift, is it simple, routine, complex, the appliances you're going to use in that lift, the load calculations, the site data or conditions, is it onshore, offshore, marine. Then you need to put for us a step-by-step procedure of how that lift is going to be done. You have to carry out a route of travel assessment. Then you can put some drawings or how the crane will rig, put some rigging sketches. Then the people that are supposed to carry out the lifting operations, they have to be added in the lifting plan and also sign. Then the type of communication that will be used for that particular lifting operations. Are you using hand signals? Are you using radio calls? Then lastly, authorization box for approval. So this has to be done. Your lift has to be approved by the necessary personnel, either by your appointed person, either by the CPLO, either by your HSC director, depending on your lifting management system. What does it say? About load estimation, so how can you estimate the weight of the load that you're going to lift? Okay, there's a standard chart in case. Okay, the first thing, sometimes on the loads, they mark that, okay, this container is 20 ton. Okay, they'll put it there. Or this mud tank is 45 ton. So they will mark it on the data plate. But in the case that they have not marked it, so that means you have to calculate and determine the weight of that load. Okay. So in this case, we use the density mass volume formula. So with this table, there are quite a number of materials and their densities per cubic meter. So it means you have to first determine the volume of that unit. After determining the volume, if I know the volume and I know the density per cubic meter, it means I can get the mass. This is from basic mathematics. Okay. Yeah, so that's how you'll determine the weight or the mass of the load that you're going to lift. Then we have what we call a dynamic application factor. This is a factor that's normally incorporated on the weight of the load or the static hook load to cater for any dynamics, for example, wind, wave motions. If you're lifting on floating vessels, like for example on the Telenga project, we shall have operations on the lake. That's on the lake during lake water abstraction, when we shall be setting up the platform for lake water abstraction. So realize we shall have a floating barge. So of course we shall need to incorporate all the dynamic factors. All these parameters will be incorporated in when you are doing the lift planning. Okay. So we have the DAF onshore, inshore, and offshore. Crane parameters, these ones I believe some of us know them. We have the boom length, that means from here up to here. We have the working radius from the slewing point to this point. We have the headroom. We have the outrigger width. We have the rigging height, the lift height. Then I'm sure some of us have heard about crane load charts. So important to note here is the working radius. Working radius is anomaly on this column. Then the boom length is normally up here. And then inside here, they normally put the safe working loads for each given, for example, working radius. Okay. Yeah. Then this one is more of, it's a range diagram showing the height at which you can lift. For example, down here we normally put the working radius. This is the boom length. So this one will help you determine, for example, if I'm at a working radius of 12 meters at a boom length of 21.9, it means my maximum height that my boom will be working at will be around 26 meters. So this just helps us to see the height that we shall be working at. Then maybe one thing I forgot, down here we normally put the number of part lines on the hook block, then the capacity of the hook block, and then okay, this is the capacity, then the weight of the hook block. It's very important that you follow what has been stipulated on the data plate, just not to overload your equipment. Then about sling calculations, I think I'll just be brief on this. So this one, just looking at the angles, it will always increase as the tension will always increase as you increase the included angle. Okay. Then when it comes to calculating the vertical reaction forces, normally we have a formula. We get the load weight times the opposite distance, then we divide it by the total length of the load. So this is the total length of the load. If I want to determine how much weight will be this side, so it means I will get the total weight of this particular load. Okay, I multiply it times the opposite distance, which is D1. then I divide it by the entire length, which is L. So the answer we get will be the vertical reaction force at this point, or the shared load, okay? Because the center of gravity here is more of a pivot point. So you want to determine what weight will be this side and which weight will be this side. So by using this formula, you will determine which weight is this side and which weight is this side. So if I want to determine the weight on this side, it means I'll get the entire weight of this particular load times the opposite distance divided by the overall distance. So I will get the weight of this particular, that will be acting on sling 1. Okay, so about mode factors, these ones affect the integrity, or the self-working load of the equipment or of the sling. So if you choke a sling, its capacity will reduce by 20%. So if it's a 1-ton chain sling, it will reduce by 20% to 800 kilograms. Okay. Then if it is, if there are 2 legs and each leg is around 2 ton, we have a mode factor of 1.4. So to determine the new self-working load of these 2 slings, it will be 2 ton, which is the self-working load of 1 sling, times 1.4, which is our mode factor. So the self-working load of these 2 slings will be 2.8 ton instead of 4. The mode factor is just a safety factor incorporated to ensure that we don't overload these slings, because these slings can only lift up to 2 ton each when they are in straight position. But once you lift them, you subject them to an angle that is between 0 to 90 using the uniform method, it will mean that they will no longer lift the 2 ton immediately. So we have to use the 1.4 mode factor to determine the new self-working load of those 2. Then if there are 3 or 4, we have a mode factor of 2.1. So if each sling is 1 ton, to determine the self-working load of all of them, it will be 1 times 2.1. Okay, so the answer will give us the new self-working load of all the slings together. But ideally, one would say, if I have 1 ton, 1 ton, 1 ton, so it means they can lift 3 ton. No, it is not right. You have to multiply the self-working load of 1 sling times 2.1 as your mode factor. Common accidents for mobile cranes. We have being struck by a load, boom, or jib. So this one, normally we have to ensure that our area is well barricaded, and as well the personnel involved in the lifting operations, you don't go in the line of fire. Okay, it doesn't mean but by you barricading off the area that you're safe. No, you're also not supposed to go in the line of fire, where you can easily be struck by the load, the boom, or the jib, or the hook block itself. Then falling from the crane when loading the crane or performing maintenance, mainly for the operators and maintenance technicians. When you're accessing, please take extra cautious, because there are chances of slipping and falls. During transportation or on a busy site, there is always a possibility of machines crashing with each other. Okay, so always ensure that the route of travel is clear with no obstruction from anything. Then there is a possibility of tipping over, sometimes due to overloading of the crane, or even ground conditions. So always take note of that. Then lastly, but not the least, structural failure caused by too much pressure on the components. Let's not overload our machines. Electrical hazards caused by crane coming in contact with Electrical sources, this one I think we saw it in our safety moment. Always ensure that you have enough clearance from the power lines, or if not, switch off the power lines and work close to that area if it's a must for you. Then overloading, again, as said, overloading can easily tip your crane, so let's ensure that we work within the safe working load of our equipment. Lastly, about Lastly, about the forklifts, common accidents, collision with pedestrians. So for the operators, always ensure that you have a clear visibility of where you're going such that you don't knock personnel. Always drive through your driveway, not through the pedestrian walkway. Okay, that is in the warehouse. For the operators, if you must drive with all these loads like this, it is advised you get a banksman or you travel in reverse. Then struck by falling materials, always ensure that your materials are well secured. They shouldn't be loose, okay, because they can easily fall off and hit someone, or they can easily fall off and get, damaged, or, depending on the product that you're lifting. Then crushed by forklift, tip over due to heavy load. Always ensure that you lift within the safe working load of your machine. Okay, whenever a forklift is overloaded, definitely it will also tip over. Accidents with a victim on or in a moving forklift. So forklifts are not designed for personnel to be on them like this. Okay, normally there is a basket that someone has to be in before they can work, if they are supposed to, on such an equipment. Then lastly, fall from platform on a forklift. Again, if you're not in baskets, definitely you will fall off in case of anything. When you're loading, some of us that are in beverage companies or manufacturing companies, okay, when you're loading the trucks with products or with privileges, make sure that the truck has fully reversed close to where the forklift can access if it is to enter inside, and the operator has to be out of the truck, because sometimes these operators, they assume that you're done loading yet you're still loading, and before you know it, you're loading a product inside and the guy is driving out. So he has to leave the truck, put chocks on the forklift, on the truck, and then be in a safe place, not in the driver's cabin. Okay, such that after you loading the product, then they can call him and then he drives away. But if he's inside, then that means chances are high you might be loading at one point and then the guy drives and then you tip over with the forklift. Accidents are real, so if safety is not followed, someone can easily lose their life. Thank you for listening. If there are any questions, you are welcome. Don't forget, if in doubt, stop the job, stop and ask. Thank you very much. That's all from my side. Over to you, Angela.
Thank you so much, Mr. Yahaya, for that insightful presentation. Well, I've learned a lot. We can all appreciate that he has elaborated. We can give him a round of applause on our reactions, yes, and a thumbs up. Thank you. At this moment, we shall have questions. You can raise up your hand or you can send in through the chat or the QA section. Before I unmute someone, if you raise your hand, I will unmute you. We have a feedback form that helps us rate the training. It's in the chat section. Kindly fill that up. But Captain Ali asked a question. He said, I believe the certification of lifting equipment should be for forklifts, man lifts, etc., but not for jack pallets, right? Yahaya, I saw someone answered him, but I don't know whether it is sufficient enough. Mr. Mugula said partially right, but manual pallet jacks don't require formal OSHA certification. All electric pallets, jacks powered, do not require operator training. All right. I'm going to unmute. I'm going to unmute Renato. Moment. Renato, you can now speak. You can unmute and ask your question. Then it will be Martin. Renato, you can unmute.
No, I just want to ask if I can have the module of your webinar.
Yes, Renato, you will have, it will be sent out. The presenter will share with us, and it will be sent out to those who have attended this training. Thank you. Mr. Luwama Martin, you can ask your question. You're unmuted.
Hey, Angela, thanks for putting this together. Thanks, Hayahaya, for the presentation. It's very insightful. I wanted to ask in particular, let's say for beginner level certification, what could be the first level or second level and maybe a medium profession or say competent person training in Uganda? Which entities and which certifications do they issue? And maybe if you have a sample, you could share a photo or something like that so that people are guided on where to go and which certifications are basic minimum for the lifting specialist. Thank you, guys.
Yahaya, would you like to take that?
Yeah, thank you, Martin. Basically, in Uganda, again, it depends on what someone wants to really take in terms of career development. If someone is focused more into the operations part, definitely one normally starts as a banksman, or someone will be like, I want to be an operator. So it means you have to go and do trainings in operating machinery. We have quite a number of training companies now in country that do offer these trainings. Okay, but again, if someone really wants to start off from level 1 as a banksman and then later upgrades to operation either as a forklift operator or crane operator, it is still okay. So we have training companies in country, the likes of G&H, Inspect Africa, JCI, for example, which are Lloyd's British, okay, Bureau Veritas. We have quite a number, to mention. But if someone wants to take up, for example, the inspection career to be a lifting inspector, it means you need to do more of international accreditations by LIA, by NSL, where these trainings can be gotten online, and some can be scheduled as physical, okay, with these bodies. I think I'll share a link for LIA if anyone is interested in doing LIA certifications, especially for inspections. Yeah, you can apply individually, you do the trainings, and then you keep updating after given certification. They have foundation level, and then they have around 6 advanced diplomas.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that answers you, Martin. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Angela, just one more comment.
Okay,
if
Martin.
You don't mind, Angela. Yeah, I realize you transcribed in the meeting, so perhaps after extracting the transcript, it would be interesting to keep it maybe at a public location where we can access it. The slides are good to share, but actually the transcript is much more useful since it contains all the content Yahya has been able to share.
So usually we
Thank
upload
you.
it on our YouTube and it will be available on our YouTube channel after. Kandagor, sorry. Could you ask your question
Okay.
and then Richard prepare?
Thank you, Angela, and also Yahya. Let me just get to my question. I've participated in several lifts, but one lift that stood out, perhaps maybe you can guide, is the operation of a concrete boom pump. Now, would you classify that as a lifting operation? And if so, what are some of the aspects to look out for? Because something as critical as the safe working load is not necessarily applicable here.
You said you were lifting what?
Concrete.
We were using a concrete boom pump to pump concrete to a roof slab 10 meters high.
Ah, you mean that is it like a truck or something?
Yes, the one with a hose that goes up and then down again to deliver concrete.
Anyway, that particular one is not captured and lifting operations. It's more on the civil part, as we said in the definition, like mechanical lifting, you're actually raising, lowering, suspending, and or more or less transferring a load. So in this case, realize the concrete is being transferred through a given duct to a point where you'll need it for your civil works. You get. So this particular machine or equipment is not classified as a lifting equipment. I don't know if it answers you or.
So it's not considered a lifting operation?
No, it is not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Richard Namansa, your last person to ask a question. Then I go to QA section. Unmute, yes.
Okay, thanks the organizer and Yahya for the insightful presentation. Sorry for joining late. I have just one question about the lifting capacity. We know that in the Chilenga we have the wind speed for lifting, and I wanted to know whether there will be a different lifting speed for offshore operations, or we shall use the same. Yes.
Yahya?
Yeah, normally, as I said in the presentation, for offshore operations, we have a lot of dynamic effects, okay? So definitely the wind speed limit will change. And then two, we shall incorporate the dynamic amplification factor in whichever lifts that we shall be doing, because we shall be having a lot of crane motions because the crane will be stationed on the barge, okay? And then we shall have sling motions, we shall have load motions. So all these parameters will have to be incorporated to cater for the dynamic effects when we shall reach that stage. So definitely the wind speed will change, and as well other factors will be incorporated to cater for these dynamics.
Okay, thank you. Appeal Dorothy asks, she says her question is on slings. Which slings are specifically used for choking around loads and irregular loads?
It depends on the type of load that you're going to lift, okay? If the load is for example fragile or very delicate, definitely you're not going to use wire rope or chain slings, because you definitely will damage them. But if you're going to lift maybe like maybe pipes, steel, you can use wire rope slings, you choke them and then you lift them. So depending on the type of load that you're going to lift, you can use the webbing slings, you can use the chain slings, you can use the wire rope slings, because all these capture that choking method as part of their configurations. That's why in the slides you saw we said once you choke a lifting equipment, its capacity will reduce. Yeah. So this can be a chain sling, it can be a wire rope sling, it can be a webbing sling. Let me see here. There's a slide that I didn't explain because of the time. But as I've said, it really depends on the material.
On the load. Okay.
On the load. Yeah. So we can choke them, as you can see, single leg choked. We can do basket. We can do single leg back hooked. Okay. So all these forms can be done on all accessories. I mean, on all these links. But again, which material are you choking? Is it delicate? Is it fragile? For you not to damage your equipment.
Okay. Thank you. Thomas, two more to go. Thomas, you're unmuted. Kindly ask your question. Thomas Timothy Mwima. Okay. Jonan, I know Mukama, you're unmuted. Kindly ask your question.
Thank you. First of all, I need to thank Yahaya for this, for the great knowledge he shared with us today. My question is, I have been in different sites, specifically my site at the moment, and for the scope of the work we are doing, we are using the scissor lift, we are using man lift and forklift most of the times. But this is not considered as operation. Whenever we are doing this kind of job, we are not following specifically the, the safety precautions that are needed to be followed when we are carrying out a lifting task, like using a mobile crane or tower cranes. So I don't know if it should be considered as a lifting operation or not, because as per what we have studied today, it's like it should be a lifting operation. And it's somehow confusing me because from my area, they are not considering it as a lifting operation. So I don't know if you can say anything regarding this.
Jonan, you said you're using what?
A man lift, scissor lift, and then forklift.
Scissor lift. So you said they don't consider it as a...
Yeah. They don't consider it as a lifting operation. Yeah, so
Anyway.
I don't know, maybe it is as per the site regulations and rules. I don't know.
Yeah, one thing, I don't know which site you're working at, but one thing is, you see, for any project or for any company, they normally have what we call a lift management or lifting management system, which governs their lifting operations. Okay, so if in the lifting management system of your company or for that particular project, they say that we are not classifying it as a lifting operation, then that is their management system. Okay? But on a global perspective or an international perspective, as I said during the slides, if you're using, because these are lifting equipment, a man lift is a lifting equipment because it is used for lifting personnel. Okay? A forklift is a lifting equipment because you're using it for lifting maybe different materials. It can be boxes, it can be palleted materials, mention it. Okay? So it means definitely it is a lifting operation as we saw the definition. Okay? You're using a mechanical device to lower, raise, suspend, transfer a load. So it is a lifting operation.
Okay, thank you,
Now,
thank you.
whether they don't incorporate it in their management system, well, that is now, but internationally, it is a lifting operation.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Just 2 questions to go. One is why Tilenga project uses a lot of mobile cranes. I think he has been answered. This one asked, how often do you certify jack pallets in Tilenga project? Yahaya, do you certify jack pallets in Tilenga?
Jack pallets. Apparently no, but if I don't know if I've gotten him right, jack pallets. If, for example, if you look at if it is having a jacking system, okay, definitely it is they're either using it for suspending a load or raising it to a given height. Okay, in our in some of the standards, I don't know if I could share this. Let me see.
Time is
okay. So, but to be specific on jacks or jacks, as people may call it, they are part of lifting equipment. Okay, and it is a requirement for them to be inspected and certified. So these fall under the 6-monthly inspection.
Okay.
Yeah.
The last question comes from a gentleman. Is changing the hook block on a crane like 200 ton regarded as a modification? Because is changing a hook block on a crane like 200 ton regarded as a modification? He goes ahead to state his reason. He remembers they got a challenge on a rig move. They told them we have to do another inspection by a third party. Yet it was clearly shown in the manual book of the crane that when you need to change the hook block and increasing the wire falls, you do not need a third party. It is part of the manual. So is it a modification?
No, it's not a modification. Once something is stipulated in the operator's manual or on the load chart, for example, you find a crane has maybe like for the 200 ton, you find it has like 3 or 4 hook blocks. It has one of 130, maybe an 80 ton or 30 ton. So it means at one point they will change to a given hook block.
Okay.
Okay. So it doesn't require, it's not a modification, it is just alignment on what is on the manufacturer's, load chart. Maybe one thing that he has to note is about the certification. These hook blocks are supposed to be certified by third party. So we can only call in the third party if the particular hook block they want to use was not inspected and certified initially. But if these were inspected and certified during the third party inspection, changing them, even if I change like 3 of them on the same day, depending on how I want to manage my lift, it doesn't require you to call a third party inspection again to recertify your crane.
Okay.
The most
Thank you so
important thing
much.
is to ensure that the hook block itself was certified and has a valid certificate for it to be used on that particular crane.
Oh, independently of a crane certificate.
Exactly, yes.
Okay. Thank you. You can give us your closing remarks, Mr. Yahaya.
All right. Thank you everyone for attending. One thing I must stress is us being vigilant when it comes to lifting operations within our workplaces. Don't just look aside if you have seen something today or if you have learned something today that we have said it is a risk for your operation, or don't say, me, I'm not a lifting specialist, I'm not a lifting supervisor. You might see your colleague going in the line of fire. You might see your colleague doing horse plays on a forklift. Okay? You might see someone doing something not safe. All of us have a right to come in and intervene, advise, and tell someone what to do. Like, what you're doing is not right. That's why it has been good that some of us have spared time to attend this session. I'm sure you're going to be ambassadors to your different locations that you're going to be working, that you're working in. That if you've learned something from here, it's not going to stop here. Let it trickle down to your workplace. As we said, we are trying to raise the standard of lifting operations within our workplaces. So if you really learned something on site today or tomorrow or whichever day, if you're seeing anything that is not aligned with what we've discussed today, based on the standard, based on the regulation, based on industry best practice, come in, advise, talk to the person responsible, tell them that, hey, this is not how it's supposed to be done. We need to do it like this, based on this regulation, based on this standard. We shall share this presentation. I'll just make a few edits, then I'll share the one that Angela will upload. Yeah, you can always use it as a reference. You can, if there is any question, I think Angela will share my email, can send me an email, can give me a call. Then we see how best we can, support each other for as long as it's about raising the standard of lifting operations within our workplace. Thank you. That's it from my end.
Thank you so much, Yahaya. Thank you everyone who has attended. On behalf of the Safety and Health Association of Uganda, kindly do not forget we have a Shao annual dinner on 6th December. We have a fun day on 26th September, and we have a West Park conference on 13th to 14th of November. Kindly fill in the feedback form. It helps us know how we're performing in delivering of the webinar. It's in the chat. It has been reshared by Rachel. Kindly fill it. It guides us on how we are performing and how to improve on what to present to you, the members. Lastly, but not least, the material will be shared on email for those who have attended this webinar. So we shall get your emails and we shall share this material after the presenter shares. We appreciate you, Yahaya. Thank you for making time. Thank you for presenting to our members. We appreciate for this enlightening lifting operation presentation. We shall, in case you need, you can give him a round of applause. You can react to it by giving him a round of applause. I really appreciate him for making out time, really. It was, it was well curated. His email will be available. It will be shared with a material and a phone number so that in case you have anything to ask or need guidance with, he will be available. Other than that, I remain Angelina Nafuna, the General Secretary for the association. Kindly fill in that training evaluation form and do have yourself a beautiful Saturday. Thank you so much.
Thank you.